Welcome, everyone. Good to see you all here. You've come here instead of gone for lunch, so I don't know if that's a wise choice or not, so hopefully I will make that wise choice for you. My name is Andrew McDougall. I'm Director of Beauty and Personal Care Research at Mintel. And first and foremost, and some of you are going to hate me for this, but I'd just like to ask you all just to stand up just for a second. Be a bit longer than a second, but just stand up just for a second. Okay, I just want to try something. So I appreciate you listening. You've already listened to that bit so far. Don't worry, no one's going to steal your seat at this point either. Although now would be a good time to steal seats if anyone's looking. What I want you to do is I want you to watch me very carefully. And every time my hands touch, if you could just free up your arms, free up your hands. Every time my hands touch, I just want you to clap, if you can do that. So if they touch, a couple of you clapped, a couple of you didn't do anything, so well done, thank you for that. So let's try that again. So every time my hands touch, you clap. Okay, and then every time my hands touch, you clap. Sometimes I'll do it mid-sentence, just to see if I can catch you out, and I caught quite a lot of you out there, so we'll just try and do that again. Okay, some of you aren't really paying attention at this point, so that's fine. Sometimes as well, I will also try and trick you as well, and you will or will not clap. But to get to it, just if you would just like to clap, and then some sort of rhythmic thing now we're going to, yeah, there we go. That's wonderful. There's no relation to the presentation at all for this. You can all sit down now. That was just to get a standing ovation before we start. So at least I've started on a good edge. But no, jokes aside, the reason I wanted to do that is A, it's got you standing and moving. And there's something about if you're feeling a little bit more energized, you're more receptive to take in information. And I appreciate some of you may have been sitting here all morning, and I'm going to talk to you for about half an hour. So again, it's good to feel a bit energized to take that sort of information in. But the other reason I wanted to do that with you as well is to highlight something called authority bias as well, which some of you may have heard. And authority bias is basically when we follow or we believe or we trust someone who is in a perceived figure or position of authority. And I think this is very important because it's a very powerful sort of cognitive bias that we don't really think about, but it's just something that naturally happens. So if you think about when you go to a doctor, when they tell you something, you normally listen because, again, there is that perceived authority that doctor has, and also the years of education as well, of course. But it is something that, again, just standing on this stage, I've enabled all of you to stand up and start clapping. Just for some idiot on a stage. If someone asked you out there to just start clapping, you probably wouldn't because there's no sort of perceived authority there. And I think that's fascinating because it shows you just how consumer behavior can be impacted as well. So that's how it's relating to what I wanted to talk about today. It wasn't just for me to do that for you. And I think that's important because if consumers are looking for trust, they're looking for guidance, they're looking to build their own knowledge, then that's really important. And I think understanding what consumers want and why is kind of what we do at Mintel. For those of you that aren't aware of what Mintel do, we're very much experts in consumer behavior, looking at sort of behavioral insights. We run consumer data surveys in 36 markets globally throughout the year to sort of understand what different cultures and different countries are doing, what they're saying. We do that in beauty, we do it in other markets as well. We also buy products in 86 markets globally and put them all into our global new products database, or the GMPD, which some of you may have heard of. So there we can track claims and ingredients and look at all the trending data. We combine that with our analysts around the world, with our market size data, and from that we can come up with these trends that I'm hopefully going to present one of these to you today. And so if you did want to find out, I'm not going to speak any more about Mintel now, but if you did want to find out any more, we're on the innovation zone just on the corner, stand D80. You can come along, we have product demos. Every product I actually show you in the deck today we have on the stand, if you want to go check it out and feel it and play with it. We will have demos throughout the day on that as well if you wanted any more information. And also we have iPads, which aren't a giveaway, but they're there for you to play with. We have AI, we have our own sort of proprietary Mintel AI, which is all about utilizing AI for search, for trend understanding. We fed it all of our data, and from that you can just ask it a question and it will give you an answer, and it will also back that up with data as well. So please feel free to go and play with that. Or we have a concept generator as well if you want to be creative and create some wonderful products, then please feel free to head on down there and they will sort of help you and guide you through all that as well. But today I wanted to take you through one of our 2025 beauty trends, which is My Knowledge is Power. And it's very much looking at how we can empower consumers, how they see value, and how we can build value and meet that value with consumers going forward. Because beauty is no longer about just the products that you put on your skin or on your hair or on your bodies. It's now about that power. It's about consumer power. Knowledge for consumers is no longer an accessory. It is now a necessity. It's something that guides or is the foundation for choice, for decisions they make, the confidence they have in products, in brands, in claims that you make. It feeds all of this. And again, this may be fed by those cognitive biases that I was telling you before, but it becomes really important to be as clear and as simple and to the point as possible. Obviously, sometimes we're talking about complex information. That's difficult to sort of explain in very simple terms. But it's how we get that messaging across to the consumer that becomes really important. Because as much as I say consumers just want control now, it doesn't mean brands and ingredient suppliers and manufacturers don't have a role to play. We do. It's just changed ever so slightly sort of in how we'll be doing that. I also wanted to give you sort of a recognizable example of what we see in the beauty industry now and where it's headed with this idea of knowledge and power, and something that is quite ubiquitous in our world in these days now. So something like smartwatches and sort of fitness trackers, these data app trackers, some of you may be wearing them now, some of you may have them in your pocket, but they've really revolutionized the way that we approach health and wellness. Obviously, these things now are tracking our heart rate, they're tracking our blood oxygen rate as well, as if we ever needed to know that every second of the day. It's tracking the steps we take, it's tracking the pace and the distance if we're doing a workout. It's giving us all this real-time data, and so it's guiding your choices, it's giving you progress goals, it's giving you insight that you trust a little bit more because you know it's backed in that data. So when you do work out now, or when you sleep badly, or when you're feeling stressed, if your watch or your phone is telling you that information, it just reinforces that for you that little bit further. And that is just helping with that knowledge. It's helping to build that trust. And in beauty, we're seeing that now, and we're going to see much more of that as we look to connect with consumers in this kind of knowledge is power sort of trend. If we think of things like AI skincare diagnostic apps, AR mirrors, they all empower our choices. They were gimmicky at one point. They were just fun and novel to use. But now they can give you real-time data, real-time recommendations. So again, how are we playing in that space? Can we recommend products, ingredients, and claims to consumers through this? How are we having that conversation, connecting with consumers to listen and also provide that guidance that they'll be looking for as well? I think this is important when we talk about guidance because we've all done this, I imagine, because we're in the beauty industry. But if you're standing in that skincare aisle and you're looking at 47 different options of moisturizer and you're thinking to yourself, which one do I buy? One is claiming anti-aging, one is claiming ultimate hydration, one is promising the world to you, another probably has ingredients in it that you can't even pronounce, let alone understand what they are, although some of you may well because you're formulation scientists. But it can feel very overwhelming, and a lot of the time it can lead to people actually leaving the store and not buying anything because there's too much choice. And I think that's important because that is the way consumers are feeling. We're seeing that consumers want a huge majority. So I've got this figure from France, but I have it from 36 markets globally, and it's always a majority figure. But people want, or they value having control over their lives. We live in sort of quite turmoil times right now. I'm not going to get into politics or anything like that. I have no sort of expertise in that area. But we live in a world where we want control over the little things or anything that we can have control over. And that's where, for beauty routines, they fit perfectly into that. And they help us to feel good as well. So there's a real value to that. I often speak to people. I remember going to an EU conference, and they were talking about food and drink and nutrition, and how obviously that's like a necessity thing, an essential thing for people. Beauty isn't seen as an essential category. However, I would argue that maybe actually it is. I would imagine every single person in this room, every single person in this hall, hopefully, has used at least 3 beauty and personal care products today, whether that's just to wash, whether that's just to make yourself feel good, to build confidence, to put your war paint on, to express yourself. Beauty plays a much bigger role than I think sometimes we give it credit for. And we kind of underestimate the power that beauty has. So again, if we can help to build that feeling of control through something just small like our beauty routine, that can have a big impact for people, because people are moving away from this one-size-fits-all approach. They want more tailored approaches. That's where the technology and the advancements and the innovations that we'll see over the next 3 days are going to really fit in, and it's where they're really going to have a really big impact for consumers going forward. Which kind of leads me to my next point, this sort of shift in mindset. I think it's quite fascinating that we actually see that just over 7 in 10 Brazilian adults actually value or prioritize brand alignment with their values. We don't want to buy from brands that don't follow the values that we hold close to ourselves. Every single thing that we put in our beauty bag, in our handbags, that's a statement about us. If people see us get that product out, it says something about us. We're sensitive to that. We want to use products that are empowering in different ways. And that obviously differs. What is valuable to you may not be valuable to me. Someone might really want the most sustainable products in the world. That's really important to them. Someone may want sort of to buy from a brand that's really ethical, that doesn't rock the boat. Some people might like a brand that rocks the boat. But that, again, is where it's really important, just understanding where to play and how to align those values. Because it's not just about quality or convenience anymore, although those two things are still super important. They still matter. But people want to feel seen. That's what the data that we see is telling us. They connect with brands that share their beliefs, whether that is about sustainability or ethics or transparency in general becomes a really sort of important topic for consumers. And this isn't sort of some sort of abstract concept. We see on social media, for example, beauty brands are put on trial quite constantly, actually. If you do something, people will call you out on there. I know social media can be a bit toxic. I'm not here to talk about that and to tell you all to get off X, because let's be honest, it's polluting our minds. But it is interesting because it's a space, and when we see the way that people interact with brands, they demand honesty. They want to know what you're doing. Who is greenwashing, for example? Who is ethical sourcing? How are they getting their ingredients? How are they sort of building in this world? It's not just about the product anymore. What is this brand story? Today, trust is earned, not bought by brands. And again, it's how we have that conversation and how we make that connection to the consumer that becomes sort of the most important thing to think about. Building on this idea of trust as well, I've also got an interesting point here as well that shows that just over half of US adults who research the beauty products or the beauty ingredients in the products that they use, they feel much better knowing what's inside those products. Again, they're not going to be formulation scientists. We don't want to sort of bamboozle them with complex information, but they do value understanding what ingredients are in their products. We always hear this term hero ingredients, and that is important because, again, that's going to highlight, is this product going to work for me? Is this going to be an ingredient that works for my particular condition or my particular challenge that I'm facing? And transparency isn't just a buzzword. I know I've used it now a couple of times like a buzzword, and it's obviously very difficult to achieve, but it does build trust, and that trust again leads to that loyalty. Again, that knowledge, that trust. I'm going to repeat those words as we go throughout this because it's something that we see constantly demanded in every stat that I show you today. Consumers are wanting to know much more. And technology can play a key role here. It should help to simplify but not overwhelm. Again, not making something too simple. We still need to get information across. But we can ultimately give consumers an idea or inform their beauty routine, the products that they buy. We can help them, guide them towards a curated product range, or indeed go down that other route of having a really customized hair care, skin care, fragrance, color cosmetic product for them. It all fits their own unique needs because, as I said before, this step away from one size fits all is definitely something we're seeing accelerating more and more in everything we do. And again, social media plays a role in this. As I say, technology plays a role with these kind of apps which help you. Again, were gimmicky years ago, but they're now much more refined. They can show you how products are going to work, how ingredients are going to work. They can track your progress. They can help you just interact with the industry much better, just as a touch point, which again becomes really important. And as I say, social media becomes really important in that regard as well, because we can educate audiences with sort of clear, accessible content about ingredients, about their benefits. And that is going to be taking it further and further as technologies like AR and VR and AI are constantly being built on day by day. If you went back 2 years ago, I can't imagine any of you, or some of you may have been, but no one have been using sort of ChatGPT or any of the other AIs available as much as they do. But now you do. You use it almost like a search engine. You use it like a buddy. You use it like a confidant sometimes, or maybe that's just me just asking about how I feel. But it is a really important part of our day-to-day lives now. And again, that has come on so quickly in the last couple of years, especially when I tell you that obviously AI was invented in 1958, and we've only really since the turn of the millennium seen this sort of exponential growth. So that just shows you how quickly it's going to grow in the coming years. So again, this is going to have a big impact on how people or how people's relationships with their beauty products continues as well. Now, imagine as well if beauty wasn't something passive, but was actually something highly collaborative as a consumer. If you were designing your own lipstick or having a serum customized to your DNA, building your own fragrance profile going forward, again, you're probably going to need guidance on that journey. But this is not just personalization, it's hyper-personalization that we're seeing in process now. It's not just a trend, but it's going to be the future of the industry, particularly as tech makes these things much more commercially viable and scalable going forward as well. The access to this kind of hyper-personalization is going to be easier for brands and for consumers alike. So again, it's something we need to be thinking about for the future. We see in a recent study we ran in the US as well that a big majority of consumers were actually saying that they are interested in these hyper-personalized beauty products. It doesn't mean they need to understand everything, as I say, in all its glory, but they are interested in finding something that works specifically for them, that is hyper-personalized to their situation, whether that's the climate they live in, the stage of life that they're going through, their hormones, their fatigue levels, their stress levels. They want something that works for them as and when. And this doesn't mean that there's going to be one product that works for that consumer for the rest of their lives either. We could build out sort of seasonal options for consumers. Again, if my situation or my environment's changing, I'm going to have to look for different beauty products as well. And interestingly as well, you'll just see from the bottom of that stat, for those of you who were reading, just there, that almost a third of consumers are actually willing to pay more for this as well, because, again, they're seeing that benefit. If you justify that value, people will spend. Although we are, I say this quietly, but potentially going towards recession, depending on which country you live in, we do still find, and I know that earlier on, some of the talks earlier on were talking about the lipstick effect and how that's still in full blast. And I think beauty plays that role in helping people as an almost essential, but also really helps us in feeling good. And again, going back to that point I made earlier about not underestimating beauty becoming really important to think about as well. A product example that I have and that you can go and play with on the stand if you wanted to. This is the Maison M Your Lipstick. So this is basically a 3-in-1 customizable lipstick. Basically, you can pick 3 shades from 60,000 different color options. There is an AI recommendation that can help you with this. There's a color chart as well if you want to be more active and involved. But it's all about just finding the color that's right for you and finding the different shades that's right for you as well. So you're not just picking one shade, you're picking 3 different shades as well, because you might want to change your lipstick at some point. You might want to change things up. So again, that personalized option is available to you as a consumer, and it's being made available to you because the brand is sort of offering that going forward. So it's supporting this idea of experimentation, which becomes really important for consumers. It's encouraging them to be part of the process, to be creative, which again is a great asset of the beauty industry. And it also helps to minimize overconsumption as well. So that kind of sustainability tag-in is sort of built into that as well. It's not the main selling point, but again, still an important thing aligning with those values that consumers could be looking for. And I think that's why hyper-personalization is going to be really interesting to see how it evolves over the next couple of years, because it's about putting consumers in the driving seat. It's not saying they own the beauty industry, they will sort of dictate to us everything that's going to happen. But it's just about, again, that idea of control, involving them in the process, listening to them, and finding products that work for them is going to be the route to success for the future as well. And this is a theory, again, sorry to go back to sort of cognitive biases and behavioral science on you, but again, just as people, this is again something that, again, I spoke about sort of cognitive overload and authority bias earlier on, but there is another theory as well called the IKEA effect. I don't know, show of hands, has anyone ever heard of the IKEA effect before? You could probably guess, because it's IKEA. You buy your flat pack furniture, you build your furniture. But the IKEA effect is basically this idea that people value items more when they've helped to create them. So again, just that idea that you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into this, because let's be honest, building furniture can be that stressful. But it becomes important because you create a stronger attachment to that product because you've been involved in the process of making that product. You might be less likely to throw that product out because you think, oh, I built that table, I want to keep it. And this happens not just with IKEA, it's called the IKEA effect, but if you think about if you bake a cake, or if you received a cake from someone that's been baked, you automatically, because of that involvement process that's gone on, you might value it just that little bit more because it's a little bit more personal, it's a little bit more intimate. And it's the same with, for example, if you are customizing your shampoo or if you're customizing your skincare products. If you've been involved in that process, and we saw this big boom in sort of DIY beauty sort of 5 years ago, but if you are involved in that process, again, it just strengthens your attachment to that. That then becomes not just a product, it becomes your product. It's uniquely tied to you. And again, it's just those little cognitive biases that I think are really important because, again, these are kind of things that just go on in our subconscious, the little shortcuts that we're always looking for. I'm not saying that humans are lazy, but we do just rely on shortcuts a lot of the time. So if we can build that into our offering, into what we're giving to consumers, again, that's going to help them just become much more attached to our products going forward. It's about creating those meaningful experiences that become really important for consumers. Now remember, cast your mind back, some of you are way too young to be doing this, but if you cast your mind back to when you were young, or were a younger version of yourself, beauty was very much all about experimenting and expressing yourself. And it still is. No matter what age you are, every product you select, every product you think about is all based around this idea of expressing individuality, and beauty is a great sort of source for that self-expression that becomes important for people. It's this celebration of it that becomes really interesting. And again, our consumer data backs this up. We see a majority of people value expressing that individuality through the products that they use. For them, beauty isn't just about fitting in, it's about standing out boldly. What do my products say about me? I'm not saying we're all going to have sort of the brightest hair color in the world or the brightest eyeshadow, but again, it just becomes important just how that beauty makes you feel. That connection that we have with beauty is very much an emotional one, as well as a functional one as well. So building into that and having those conversations with people becomes a really important thing to think about as well. And that's where inclusivity is also still super important. I know globally with things going on, in DEI in general has sort of been questioned by many different markets, but in beauty, inclusivity is still really important. Making products available for everyone or working for everyone is the best way that we can develop these products. Because if you're making products for everyone, just from a business sense, you've got more people that are potentially going to buy your product as well. And we see some great brand examples of companies doing this. So again, a product you can come and play with on our stand, but this is from a beauty brand called Tilt. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Tilt Beauty. But what they've done is they've got this mascara here. We have that on the stand. We also have a lipstick on the stand as well, actually. But what they've done is, so their products are all certified by the National Arthritis Fund in the UK. And it's all to do with making products for people that maybe have mobility challenges or struggle to use or sort of properly focus and sort of carry out intricate practices with their makeup products. And so they've tried to build in as many inclusive measures into their product in general. So it's a non-slip case. So again, if your sort of dexterity is sort of challenged, again, this will make it easier to use this product. It's empowering you in that sense. It's so non-slip. It's in a refillable case as well, so that you can just keep reusing the case. You just pop a new lipstick in when you're done. They have Braille on the cartons as well. Again, just making it easy, again, for anyone to understand. This doesn't mean you have to be partially sighted or have arthritis to use these products. It just means that it's available for you if you need that. It's taking that barrier away. And I think inclusivity in beauty is a really interesting one because it's not just the right thing to do, it gives you that strategic advantage. It makes you more accessible to people. So if we're talking about personalization, and we talk about sort of empowering consumers, this whole message around inclusivity becomes a really important one to think about as well. And no matter what your thoughts on inclusivity, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, as I say, just from a business point of view, it just makes sense for you. And speaking of empowering narratives, again, longevity is probably a word you've probably heard way too much about in the last few months, but it is a real big focus in the beauty industry. We are beginning to see that people want to celebrate life stages much more. Terms such as slow aging or indeed pro-aging, we're now seeing much more. Anti-aging has a bit of baggage, although it is still I always am conflicted with this because when you say anti-aging, you know what type of product you're buying, so it's really good at helping you sort of take that shortcut. But we're now seeing this idea of celebrating longevity and celebrating aging and understanding that at different life stages, we're going to have different conditions or challenges, and we're going to need different products to fit into that becomes really important. And interestingly as well, when we ran this study in the UK last year, we found that, again, just over half of people actually think that pro-aging needs to be celebrated more. So there is this idea, again, that we need to understand that when you reach a certain age, it doesn't mean beauty isn't for you anymore and it's only about sort of anti-aging just constantly. It's about still celebrating. How can I make the most of this life stage? How is there a product that will work for my specific life stage? Again, something personalized, something something customized, something tailored specifically for you. And pro-aging does do this. It celebrates beauty in every wrinkle, every freckle, every story that our face or body can tell. Pro-aging is about that. Obviously, sometimes I understand you've got grey hair or you've got a breakout, something that you might want to find a solution for and get rid of. But in a lot of ways, it's just about actually understanding that this is who I am right now, and I want to be celebrated, not told, oh, I don't need to look like that, I need to look like this instead. So it's, again, an empowering message going forward. But there is a challenge here because it can, again, be overwhelming. There are endless products in the anti-aging space. There's multi-step routines that can be complicated, and let's be honest, who has time for that? And as I say, there is this pressure for perfection. So again, that consumer that's going to be craving authenticity and simplicity, how are we going to meet their needs? Looking at sort of pared down or straightforward routines, that is going to strike a chord with consumers. It's about reducing that decision fatigue, making it an easy choice, again, taking those shortcuts that becomes for people and delivering those genuine, empowering solutions that, again, is going to be a great buy-in for consumers. A quick caution, just as we explore this idea around personalization, I'm talking about it's the best thing in the world. But as I say, there are challenges to this as well. Obviously, costs and things like that can become difficult. But also, just building trust as well becomes really important. So how can we be trusted and transparent? We need to make sure that we are authentic in the messaging we have. For those heritage brands, it's a lot easier because, again, they have that heritage, those years and years of sort of experience to sort of draw upon. But just in looking at a consumer that is going to demanding transparency in the ingredients, the results, the messaging, the claims that we're making, how are we tapping into that? How are we meeting that consumer's desire for that going forward? I have picked a heritage brand as an example here because it is a lot easier. But Nivea, I think, do this very well. They meet this demand very well. On a lot of their products, this particular product, again, come and see it on the stand if you want. But this particular Q10 Anti-Wrinkle Expert Serum, again, taps into this perfectly. They highlight the key ingredients, the Q10, which has become sort of ubiquitous now. It's become something we're much more aware of. They highlight the vitamin C because, again, there's a familiarity to that. Consumers are understanding that a bit more. In their messaging, they help people understand how that's going to actually impact them, how it can help them meet their long-term health goals. They also, in this particular product as well, use an ingredient they call glycostop as well, which, for those of you that could break it up, glyco relating to sugar, stop meaning stop. So it's all about something that is combating sort of sugar-induced damage to the skin as well. So again, I'm not saying, again, that consumers are going to fully understand everything that goes into the product, but they can understand from this kind of, from these ingredients highlighted and the claims that are being made, they can understand and feel empowered about using this product if this is something that is specific to them. And I think this is something that Beiersdorf and Nivea have done very well, as well as many other brands, in just increasing awareness of factors like sleep, diet, exercise. There's going to be some great examples during the next few days of like the gut-mind axis and how this is so connected in beauty. We actually have a stat as well that shows majority of consumers actually think that a healthy diet is just as important as the beauty products that they use as well. So again, making those links, linking those factors together becomes really important. But it's again how we get that message across authentically and transparency, because they're not optional anymore. They are essential if we're looking to build that consumer trust. 3 more products that we've highlighted again that we have on the stand if you want to come play with those. This is the last time I'll repeat that to you. But 3 products that do this in very different ways. The Neutrogena Collagen Bank moisturizer. This taps into the collagen bank trends for those of you on social media that saw collagen banking was trending on TikTok in a ridiculous sense. Just this idea again that you can sort of almost bank collagen from your peak production years and then obviously save that for later. This particular product makes many different claims. So they say they've got 2 times smaller peptides than other leading peptides on the market. So they've got this micropeptide technology. It penetrates up to 10 skin layers, they claim as well. Again, helping to bank that collagen during those peak production years. So it's perfect for those consumers that are invested in that kind of preventative beauty and want those kind of ingredient-focused choices. So sort of quite clear in their messaging. Again, consumers don't have to understand the whole science, but it's just understanding how these products may work for you. The next product we have is this Grey Delay Booster from Eels Formula, which is this spray that kind of delays grey hair. They claim to re-educate follicles and stimulate melanin production. They use botanicals and science together, as many people do. But it is this kind of thoughtful approach to early grey prevention. It's very clear what the product does. It's very easy to use the product. As I say, please feel free to come and use it yourselves. So again, it taps into all of these consumer demands, all these consumer needs that are out there, which are very important. And the final product example as well, this is, by the way, a much bigger bottle than you think of. I apologize for the unclear messaging here, but it's very clear if you come and see the actual product. But this is the Super Lamella shampoo from Cow's The Answer. And what they do, this is kind of tapping into that skinification of hair trend that we're seeing. So we have the ingredients and the concentrations of the ingredients clearly labeled on the bottle. It's not clear in this picture, but believe me, it's clearly labeled on the bottle. It's very prominently listed. And also Cow as well, one of those heritage brands that have over 100 years of research to back that. So it builds that trust with you. Again, that authority bias I was mentioning earlier on, right at the start. This, again, is something that can be built into this going forward. So what I wanted to do then to sort of wrap up this trend and look at where we can go is sort of scenario planning for the future. So if we take a consumer for the future, what is their day going to look like? And some of you may sort of scoff at some of this, but their day in the future is going to be very interesting, and it's going to be interesting how tech and their lifestyle feeds everything into their beauty routine in general. So for example, this lady, I'm going to call her Jane, just because that's the name that came to my head right now. But Jane is going to wake up in the morning. She's going to slip on her AR glasses that, again, have just become ubiquitous. Google Glass is a thing of the past. The technology is getting much better. So she's going to put on her AR glasses. Instantly, a virtual influencer is going to pop up, or a virtual assistant is going to appear. It's going to do a real-time scan of her skin. It's going to look at the day's temperature, the climate around her, the environment that she's living in, and it's going to adjust her skin schedule based upon that. Her skincare routine is going to be built around that. It's going to be finding products or curating products that match her skin type and her preferences for that particular day. This will all feed into a community of skincare enthusiasts, which again can learn from each other, and of course AI will learn from us in that way as well. Oh, sorry. Throughout the day, her smartwatch is going to monitor her stress levels. So if you're in a stressful meeting, it might just say, hey, well, how about this calming serum? It will help to calm you down. There's going to be different ways, again, that all these lifestyle factors impact how her beauty routine is going to unfold in this kind of 24-hour beauty cycle that we constantly live in. This idea of kind of beauty snacking throughout the day is going to be very important to Jane. She's also going to see from maybe her phone or maybe from her smartwatch or her glasses that UV exposure has heightened throughout the day. So again, her SPF application schedule is going to be adjusted accordingly. When she gets home, she's going to have this bespoke skin routine that is based on products that have been derived from her own skin's biology, so it's unique to her. It's something that's working for her particular skin profile. Again, there's a lot of sharing here, so data to and fro, but again, we do see data that shows that consumers are willing to trade data in beauty specifically if they see a real benefit coming through. So again, it's just about transparency, trust, and just justifying that value that becomes important as well. And of course, at the end of the day, there's going to be this online beauty community that we can tap into as well. Speak to skincare enthusiasts, speak to AI influencers or virtual assistants, and understand a little bit more about how the day went, what is the weather like tomorrow, how we need to prep our night routine, how we need to repair, prevent, and protect for the future as well. It is going to be something that seems a bit futuristic and a bit too reliant on tech right now. But again, if you think about the world and the way that we live in and how the next 5 years will probably pan out, again, these devices are just going to become ubiquitous. They're going to become the norm. So this is going to impact and empower, importantly. That's the most important thing. It once was quite a generic routine that Jane might have been doing, just sort of using the same products, the same routines that maybe her friends were using because it was the thing to do at the time. But now she's going to have this empowering experience. She's going to be guided towards using customized products, and she's going to be confident that she's using the right products as well, because that's where the brands, the material suppliers, the ingredients companies, that's where we can build that trust, build that authenticity for the future as well. So to summarize, key takeaways from today, as I said, we're going to see advanced technologies like AI, AR, RNA analysis. They're going to be revolutionizing everything we see in beauty. It already is, but it's still in a very niche space right now. But for the future, this is going to be, as I said, more commercially viable, more scalable, because consumers want solutions that are tailored to their needs. And brands can lead by offering those hyper-personalized experiences that I spoke about earlier. And indeed, if you're a luxury brand or a mass brand, again, this could be a trade-up opportunity for you as well, because as you saw from the stat earlier on, although it's still only a third of consumers, there is still a good base of consumers that are willing to pay more for that, because again, they can see the value in that going forward. So these kind of diagnostics and devices and tools and everything is going to help to simplify routines. It's going to help to build that trust going forward. And it's going to help ultimately to empower consumers with that knowledge to make those decisions as well. As I mentioned before, I think inclusivity and diversity is still going to be really important. Beauty is all about self-expression. Modern consumers demand products that honor individuality across skin tone, head type, structure. There's so many different ways that we can be inclusive for consumers, provide them with those personalized options, and that is going to be really important because the future for beauty is going to be truly inclusive. And as I say, if we're developing something for everyone, then again, or allowing access for everyone, this again is a much more empowering message. It's going to bring a lot more people along with us going forward as well. And then finally, honesty is non-negotiable. We kind of already knew that, right? And transparency is a word that I've said many times in this presentation, and it's one that should be a banned word now because we talk about transparency all the time. And in the beauty industry, we're so secretive, it's difficult to be as transparent as we want to be a lot of the time. But this is where, if we can find ways to do this, it becomes really important. Can we create labeling or provide real evidence, substantiate everything we do? Authentic messaging is essential for building that trust. We can educate consumers, we can commit them to the different practices or the different routines that we want. We can help guide them along that journey. And as I said, if you involve consumers in that process, they're much more likely to feel a deeper connection with you as a brand or you as a company or a particular product, if that's the way. So it's all about inspiring loyalty and aligning those values as well that I mentioned earlier on as well. So the takeaway from today for you guys is, I think, undeniable. Today's consumer is much more than just a buyer now. Obviously, they are still important as buyers. We want them to buy things. But they are much more than that now. They are involved. They are co-creators. They are advocates. They're decision makers that are going to be shaping the industry going forward. So listening to everything that they do, that demand for personalization, for value alignment, for unwavering transparency wherever we can, these aren't just trends anymore. They are expectations that consumers have, and this is going to redefine beauty. And so I would say that in this era of empowerment that is transforming everything we do, my challenge to you would be, are you truly listening, not just to me, but are you truly listening to your consumer? Do you understand what your consumer actually wants, and are you providing that, or are you just finding the best solution that is sort of the easiest option or the most convenient option for you to sort of provide or produce for them? It becomes really important, I think, to ask the question of how can you empower customers in a way that transforms their lives and positions your brand as a force for good? Because when we empower others, we redefine beauty. And in doing so, we help them to redefine themselves. We give that empowerment. It makes for a much more empowered consumer who's going to be much more connected to our industry, to your products, and they're going to keep that repeat purchase rate going. So it ultimately makes business sense, as well as also just being the right thing to do. Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone has any questions or if I have any time for questions at this point. But as I say, if you want to learn a bit more, please feel free to see us in the Innovation Zone.